Hello. I'm so happy to be here today to talk about the proposal process because actually this came from an experience of mine. I had been sending proposals, and I have been declined already twice. And I thought actually it was because of my themes. I was like, probably they're not interesting or they're boring for people. But truthfully, is that once that I was part of the conference planning process last year, I realized how kind of like interesting and how complex in a way the process of proposals goes. And then I realized I had made all these mistakes unintentionally. I thought I was doing it right, but then when I looked through the process, I was like, I'm doing this so wrong. So then I thought, hey, maybe maybe there's many good voices out there that have great ideas and that are just not able to present because just like me, they get lost in the process of paperwork and paper trails and all those things. So I was super happy to kind of like discuss this with Carolyn, and she so kindly agreed, to help us understand not only kind of like how to write a good proposal, but also to walk us through the actual process of conference. Like, how do we get the content in? And now now it's also our monthly series and also our virtual conference, so that everyone kind of can know how the process works, right? So Carolyn, this is now your show. And I'll be asking questions.
And I'm Carolyn Brown Treadon. I am in my second year of being conference chair, and we'll be handing that over to our program chair, Brian Tepper, who unfortunately is not able to be here with us this evening due to a scheduling conflict. But I was super excited. I've been a program reviewer for more years than I have not been as an art therapist. And along that way it helped me understand what makes a strong proposal, reviewing others, and helped me be a better presenter because I too have proposed and not been accepted in the past. So we're hopeful that this will be informative for all of you and that you will get something out of it. And by doing this, we will have a much more robust and diverse conference to offer our membership. So when you are putting your thoughts together, of those options, your top priority should be choosing the best fit. If you're looking to do a workshop where you want to give people hands-on experience, face-to-face is going to be your best option because that's the opportunity we have to be together in person. When you have your topic, you might think, oh my gosh, I have this amazing research that I have done and I want to present it. And you log in and you think, oh my goodness, what the heck are all these options? And how do I make sense? And papers, why the heck is it called a paper? Do I have to write a paper for the journal?
This is a true question. I was like, what does that mean?
But papers, what they mean is it's content that would make a good paper. It's a 50-minute session where you are delivering content. You are talking to your audience about what you have done. You are maybe one or two people who've collaborated, but it is a lot more of presenting the information and the content with time for Q&A, of course. 50 minutes. Panels are an opportunity to have multiple people talk about a similar topic, where each presenter over a 90-minute period of time has 20, 30 minutes to talk about what there is. I was on a panel at the conference in San Diego on museums, and I was one of 4 people. So we all had an opportunity to share our research on a similar topic, and you get diversity of opinions and perspectives. Workshops are built for hands-on. These are also 90 minutes. So it is a much shorter time, but you are introducing a topic, you are engaging in creativity, and then you have an opportunity to tie the creativity to the topic that you're presenting on and weave that golden thread all the way through, but it is only 90 minutes. Advanced practice courses.
Also workshops, they are usually paid.
Yes.
Right? So they're separate.
Right. This is in addition to conference.
Yes.
Yes. Advanced practice are more higher level learning. These are typically for professionals, not as much for students. They are an in-depth exploration of a topic. They also include creativity and art experientials. There are half-day advanced practice that are 3 hours. They will be before the conference. And then the full day advanced practice courses are, I believe, 6 or 7 hours. Now I'm blanking. One of the two. They're an all-day thing with a lunch break in the middle. In addition to this, there are also performance presentations, video presentations, and poster sessions. Haven't made your head spin yet.
I was like, and what are those? Like, what is a poster session, for example?
Okay, I should have had all that in here. So a poster session is where we have a block of 50 minutes where people are able to display research that they have done on a poster. That's typically like 3 feet by 4 feet. And you are presenting information, and it's a bit of a round robin where everybody is in a shared space and people wander and you get to talk about what you're doing. It's not a paper presentation. It's not in depth. You have a poster that you have developed and you are there to answer questions and educate people about your research. Right. Videos are videos. And performance are performance. Those are also in 50-minute blocks. All right, so how to get chosen. One of the things that is really important is your title. Developing a strong title is really important in getting people excited about your topic. That title has to actually match what it is you're presenting on. Because if you have this amazing title, and then we read your short description, and we look at your objectives and your abstract, we'll get to those in a minute. And I'm like, okay, I was so excited, but I have no idea how tips for a successful proposal relates to using index cards in art therapy. The disconnect, the reviewers will be like, wondering. So make sure it's a strong title, but one that really captures what it is that you are going to present on.
And if I may add, it's kind of like, how do you build a strong title? Well, usually you can have like a short version of the title and then, and then a subtitle, right?
Mm-hmm.
The shorter version, that's something that you can play with. It can be a little bit sometimes like, fun, outrageous, something like, oh, like causes like what is that? And then the subtitle can also sometimes just share kind of like the how you're doing that. It's like the art of proposals. Yes. Oh, the art of proposals. And then, we did a pun in there. But then, of course, the subtitle is like how to create a successful proposal, right? Tips for successful proposals. Then the title also includes kind of like, what am I getting out of this? If I attend this, what am I getting? Like, what is it that I'm going to take with me?
And in doing that strong title, you're going to have your big title, and then you're going to be asked for a no more than 25 character title. So you're going to have to then truncate your really fabulous title.
Yes.
Which will be what appears in the program guide along with their short description. The short description, that's like your infomercial. That will be what people read in order to make a decision if they're going to go to your presentation. It is only 50 words. So you have to choose your words carefully and get crafty. How to say a lot in a little bit.
So usually that's what you would find kind of like in the program.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's the amount of text that you get.
Right. Or on the app, because now we have
because now we have app.
Yes, there's an app for that.
There's an app for that.
And this is, I think, where most people get stuck. And I find myself getting stuck more often than not when putting a proposal together, is the best fitting program track. There's 20.
Actually, I think that was the first thing that I realized when I was submitting, that I was like, I don't know, I think mine fit in all of these. And then I have to choose. So how do we choose?
Right. And how you choose is look at your title, look at your short description, look at your content. You're the expert on the information you're presenting. Where does it best fit? And it's likely it's going to fit in one or more. It's just the nature of the work that we do. But you're the expert on the content. So do the thing that most closely aligns with what you are hoping your attendees will get out of your session. Is it more theory-based? Is it practice-based? What client population are you working with? What's the subject? If you're really struggling, make your best guess. And it could be that when we review, we might say, this is amazing, but it really doesn't match. Consider this program track. And we might reach out to you and say, Nadia, are you willing to make a shift from this to this?
Yeah, because I remember I was thinking of like, I think this is a better fit, but then I was like, but this is a more popular theme. So maybe I will, I was like, I will submit it in the popular track. But it's good to know that when I realized like, oh no, you could be kind of like reached out to and told, oh no, maybe this is better. I was like, oh, okay, I feel so much better now. Like that lessened a little bit of the pressure for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And as a proposer, you're okay to say no to us if you really feel strongly about where your proposal fits. Yep. What you will notice when you go into the call for proposals on the first page, it's going to walk through the 7 content areas that we align with for credentialing through the ATCB. Under each of those are the content areas that fit it. Then when you're asked to choose the program track, it's the content areas that you're looking at. And there's 20. So I have no doubt you can all figure out one of those 20 that fits what you are proposing. Objectives, I have a whole slide on this because this is where most people get stuck when writing proposals. So your objectives have to be clear. And what clear means is clear as mud right now, but the mud will settle in a couple slides. And after we clarify objectives, pun intended, then we'll talk about the depth of the abstract, because when the water's clear, you can see pretty deep. So we're going to talk about how to bring depth to your abstract.
Yeah, because also the abstract, I got very confused. When I saw the abstract, I thought of a research paper. So I thought, oh, the abstract is just this, again, the summarized version of what I want to say. Turns out that's not the case, but we'll get into that.
That we will. Before we get into the pitfalls, kind of already covered bullet point number 1. When your title doesn't match your content, it's very hard to evaluate. And non-measurable objectives. When we can't decide what somebody's going to get out of your proposal, that's problematic because our conference is for continuing education. And we want to make sure that those who attend know what they can expect to learn. Versus, we're going to throw everything at you and see what fits, because then there are the proposals that have very lofty objectives. And when Nadia and I were preparing for this, she's like, okay, lofty.
Lofty. I will say I thought it was a language barrier thing where I was like, I don't understand the word lofty. But no, it was not.
So I thought it would be fun to keep the word in. But lofty, if you think about big open spaces, like the loft that you envision for your dream studio. Lofty objectives are like, in this art of proposal development, you will learn common pitfalls, be able to list 5 things to be successful, list the 20 content categories that you can submit your proposal, and be able to identify the 7 different types of proposals, all as one objective. Makes my head spin. So we're going to talk about keeping objectives in the next slide on how to keep them simple, measurable, and clear. And abstracts. Like Nadia said, if you are writing an abstract like you would for a research paper or a publication, and it's like 6 sentences, that doesn't tell us anything about your content. So abstract has a very different connotation in proposals than it does in publications. And the next one, when we read an abstract and it's like 6 sentences, but then there's 3 pages of references, it's like, okay, you don't have references if you haven't cited them. So help us connect these 3 pages to these 6 sentences. So if you have a reference list, you only include on the reference list those sources that are cited in your abstract. Very different. Same word, different meaning. So you ask, how do you make a strong objective? So we're art therapists. If you think about treatment planning and put that same mentality into objectives for proposals, they need to be very clear. What can somebody expect? What are they going to learn by attending? And they have to be measurable. In the post on looking through how to develop a strong proposal, there are examples. So I want to encourage all of you to look at Bloom's taxonomy for verbs, which verbs to include. You want somebody to be able to identify what, how many of that what, identify 3 tips for developing a strong objective. Be able to recall, be able to articulate, be able to list. All of those action verbs are very important in what your participants, your attendees can expect to learn in your session. But they will be very much aligned with what your content is. Depending on what type of presentation you're doing, that will inform the type of objective you want to write. Papers and panels are going to be more knowledge-based because you will be presenting information to an audience, to attendees. Workshops and advanced practice courses involve more opportunity for exchange. So those are going to be a little bit higher order verbs, where you're going to have participants able to apply, analyze, discern. And then the abstract, the piece de resistance. So if you're thinking about an abstract for a research paper, is very short and sweet and concise. An abstract for your proposal has to really allow those reviewing your proposal to get the essence of what it is you are going to present. So a good process is to have a paragraph that you introduce the topic. How is it relevant to art therapy? In research papers, this is like your introduction. And then the supporting research is your lit review. This is, what do we already know about this topic? This is where a lot of your citations will be, that then go on your reference list. And then you're going to wrap it up with talking about what are you personally doing in this proposal that is adding to the topic, to the profession, to existing research. If we can't see that connection, it can affect your acceptance. If you're just telling us research that's already out there, and you're just going to present a review of literature without any additional knowledge, that's not a great proposal for a conference, because you're not.
And it would be a lit review, basically, right?
Right. And it's already information that is out there and accessible. So the big piece is, what are you doing to enhance our knowledge, to enhance our skills? What is going to be important for attendees to get out of your session? Once you have all of this done and you hit the submit button, all of those proposals go through a vetted review process. Everything that comes in gets reviewed by 3 board certified art therapists. This is important because of the continuing education. We also want to be very fair, because this process is not about hearing the same voices year after year, or making sure, well, Nadia is my friend, so I'm going to make sure her proposal gets accepted. It's a blind review for panels, papers, performances, and posters. Blind review. We want everybody to have a fair shot. 3 people review that, 3 people evaluate, and then that information is synthesized. Because of the nature of advanced practice workshops and videos, I actually think performances should be on the not blind review, but I don't remember that one. Might have a typo in here. But we have those are vetted. Those we do ask the presenters to include their name on, because we want to make sure that those people who are presenting these topics are indeed individuals who have the experience, the credentials, and the knowledge to present on those topics. And videos, we do want to be able to preview those videos before they are accepted. So we need to know who put those in. When a reviewer is asked to go through your proposal, we vet them on 4 categories, and they're scored on a Likert scale. Adherence to APA style, so you should be writing an APA 7th edition, which for a lot of people is a challenge. But Purdue OWL, it's the OWL, has an amazing, accessible APA. If you're affiliated with a university, most have writing labs that will assist with APA formatting. We're looking for proper citations, use of headings, proper grammar, proper references. The overall quality of your writing, this matters. We definitely want to have an inclusive conference, but the writing has to be to a level that is able to be awarded continuing education. So the overall quality of the writing matters. And it has to be in English, because our reviewers are English speakers, and the conference is delivered in English. So we do need submissions to be in English. Quality of content. This is where that abstract really, really matters. Do you have enough breadth of content in your abstract? Have you talked to us about the foundation, what your presentation is built upon, and have you shared with us how it's going to be significant to our profession? Because repeating the same content year after year is not a strong conference. We definitely want that new and exciting content that is emerging in our profession. We want to elevate. So significance is really important.
Actually, yes, because right now, as we know, like the mental health profession, our profession is changing a lot. We have technology shifting and pushing us in different directions. So there's definitely a lot of newness happening, and we want to hear more of how that is being included, or how we are practicing, right, in general, and how life has, shifted us even since like COVID, how we practiced, right? Just how the art therapy profession was practiced before. Like before we couldn't think of doing like online. We don't do online. Our therapy online doesn't work. And now we have a breadth of like work of people working online, right? So.
Right. After our reviewers go through these 4 and rate them on the Likert scale, there's an option for them to leave additional comments. Comments that go to you who have submitted, and comments that go just to the conference committee. And the comments that you might see if you were to request feedback might be, this is great, however, concerned with APA. We see that. Might be some people who presented last year got an email saying, we would love to accept your proposal. However, if accepted, these are some changes we would like you to make. And the conference committee walks through that with individuals. And they could be some comments of the objectives don't match the content. Not quite sure what people are expected to learn. All of that feedback helps inform our decisions. And then the last thing the reviewers get to identify, do they recommend that the conference committee accept a proposal or reject a proposal? And then they hit submit. When all the reviews are completed, the conference committee gets a list. We get a score for each proposal that is a synthesis of the 3 reviewers. So they're on a 100-point scale, we get grades. Then we can also see whether the reviewers would recommend accepting or rejecting. And then we get to read the comments. Based off all of that, we are charged with building the schedule and filling all those boxes in the fancy Excel that then becomes our program. But once the conference committee gets that list, what we typically will do is look for breadth of content. We separate out what has been submitted by those program tracks that we asked you to identify. And we'll look at making sure everything has representation. We will look at what the reviewers recommended, whether they recommend accepting or rejecting. And then we look at who's presenting at this point, because individuals cannot be involved in more than 3. So if somebody submitted 4 and all 4 are recommended for inclusion, then we have to make some choices and ask which ones we want and which ones we do not. And it may be that all 4 are worthy, but we cannot accept all 4 because we want to make sure more voices are heard.
I also think that, you know, it's important for us to kind of like also kind of like know the process, because it's not just a simple yes or no, right? Some get in this like in between of like maybe, and then those people get contacted directly, right? So it's not fully dependent on kind of like, oh, I sent this proposal and then I got rejected and that was that, right? In some cases, you will see that there are even more questions that arise. Sometimes even proposals, we have the person who sends a proposal ask like, hey, I wanted it to do in Spanish, right? And then we have debates about that too. It's not that we're like, sorry, not in Spanish, done, or not in like another language. But I know it kind of like brings us to just start gathering those like new questions of like, oh, should we be changing this? Should we be adding that? And right, it gets us to another level. It's not like it just gets lost like in the mail, right?
Right. And if you are to submit a proposal and you are not accepted, you are able to email the national office and say, I was not accepted. Could I please get some feedback so that I can make a stronger proposal next time? And the conference committee will put together the feedback for you so that you can see where your strengths were and identify where you need to improve for the next proposal. The master's level supervision sessions and the shared interest groups are not part of the call for proposals, but they are an important part of our conference. And with the post-conference surveys that everybody receives, that helps inform our decisions on what topics will be offered for master's level supervision sessions and what shared interest groups will be part of the programming. With shared interest groups, these are not eligible for continuing education. They are an opportunity for people who want to gather because of a shared interest, whatever that interest might be, an opportunity to gather in a shared space and have communication, have interaction, networking, fellowship, all of that amazing stuff that happens at conference. The master's level supervision sessions, the committee vets people to invite them based off who's recently publishing on topics that membership has identified are topics they would like to see, who is known in the field as a leading expert in a topic as a clinician. And we're always open to recommendations on things that we haven't covered that membership would like covered. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to stop sharing so that we can answer the questions that you'll have put in the chat.
All right, so let us see. So one of the first questions that came up, is it was from Rana, and she asked, kind of like, what's the connection between inclusivity and quality of writing?
In looking at quality of writing, we want to make sure that those individuals who are proposing are able to articulate their thoughts enough to give us a clear sense of what they are going to present. We're also very aware that we have quite a few international members where English is not a first language, and that is taken into consideration when we are reviewing. We want to make sure that every person has the opportunity to present if the reviewers deem the content.
Does that answer the question?
Does that answer the question?
Thanks. I think it just caught my ear a little strange because I think the point that you were making is we're trying to maintain a high standard of presentation. But then I just didn't get the connection. It's just that the standards apply across the board to everyone
Yes.
who wants to present.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And also, you know, I think it's important to say that part of actually doing, for example, this training is part of having these conversations, right? To start to understand what's the need, right? Because one of the ideas was, what if we have a workshop and have people all write together? And we're like, well, what's the need, right? Because maybe I'm not a great writer, right? Maybe I'm a great presenter, but I'm not a great writer. Right. So I think that these are kind of like the questions that we want, because if there's an interest, then we would like to know, right? So that we can then provide, hey, maybe we want, you know, like an actual kind of like workshop so we can all write together and submit, or maybe have like mentors do this, like however we see fit, but we want to see where we're at. Right. So that also kind of like helps us continue to become this process more inclusive.
Right. And I think leaning into a peer network is also really helpful in writing something and then having somebody read it to make sure what you think you wrote is what is received as well.
Thanks very much. And as a native English speaker, I have had a double of a time just getting through the actual description of what's required. So all of this is very helpful. We can move it along.
All right. Thank you. I'm
Thank
glad.
you.
Yeah. I also thought like we could have written all of this for y'all, but I was like, no, this needs to be a conversation. We can't just kind of like submit all this like amount of information to everybody. We have another question here. So thank you. Thank you, Rhonda. So in the application, it asks about standards for educational credit and to check a box NBCC, ATCB, or LCAT. What are the requirements for checking those boxes?
That is a great question. For ATCB, the content of the ATA conference that is eligible for CEUs are everything except for shared interest groups and posters. You can check the ATCB box. I am not the expert on LCAT and NBCC. So that is not something that I can speak to, but I would say the best way to gauge that is to look up online what qualifies for continuing education. We do have individuals who go through our program and verify eligibility for those content areas.
All right. So if you don't know, you can always check back on their standards to see if you meet those standards. I know when I submitted, I was like, I know for sure. I was like, I don't get LCAT or NBCC because I don't even know what they are, or at least I didn't know what they were back when the first time I did it, the second time I did. So I just knew already. I was like, those are not even part of me. So that kind of helped. And I was like, yes, I am ATCB eligible. All right, next question. Just to clarify, if one applies for the live conference and it doesn't get accepted, you might suggest that it be considered for the 2-day live virtual conference or monthly learning sessions.
If you have checked the box that you are willing to be considered for other things, we may. But if you are saying you only can do one or the other, then we will honor that as well. But you have choose what you're applying for, and then are you willing to be considered for other things? You have the option to indicate that for us.
again, it's not like you only get a letter and it's like, yes, no, right? Sometimes it's an open conversation. You can reply back like, hey, I have a question. Can
Mhm.
this happen? Can this not happen? I'm wondering about this, right? So please make sure that, you can always reply back and you will get a human to respond to you. It's not just a machine here.
You do not have to press 1 or 2 or 3 or 4.
Exactly. You don't have to remember which one you have to push. So for those of us who haven't attended a conference before, are there examples of the various formats somewhere?
That is a brilliant question.
That's what I thought when I read it. I was like, maybe we should get like a document together that we could just.
Absolutely. It doesn't exist, but that would be a great resource.
Yeah.
Okay, making a note.
Making a note. Maybe we can add that. Maybe have like a little, I don't know if it would be useful for some of you if we had like a little like written, now that you've seen this, maybe like a written, like these are the things that we recommend, right?
Yeah, here are examples of
See some
well-done
nodding in there.
proposals. Mhm.
If I could
Alright.
chime in where there may not be full examples of full proposals, if one searches on MyATA and looks up conference proceedings, they will be able to find past abstracts that have been submitted, so that could give people.
Great, and that's under MyATA professional development, and then scroll all the way to the bottom.
See, so maybe we get like something, I'm thinking of links and just to have people, so it's easier, right? So that you can just find it in a,
Mhm.
right? So we'll do that after this ends. We'll try and think like, what can we get, like a little package for everyone so that they can
Yep.
learn more. So thank you. Let me see another question. Are workshops canceled if there's not enough registration? And if so, when would the presenter know?
Yes, they can be. And I believe, Cynthia, I don't know if you are available to, and you have the
Yes.
number in your head.
No, I mean, last year we can cancel it, but we spoke to the presenter first and asked them what they wanted to do. I mean, and most presenters want their workshop to go forward anyway, because the example I'm thinking about, there were only 3 people registered, but those 3 people really wanted that workshop, so didn't seem to be a reason not to have it.
Mhm. Yep, with the advanced practice courses, we also have a cutoff number, but
Yeah, and
that has
also for
not been
workshops,
an issue.
there's a limit of how many people can attend, right? For workshops.
Yes,
Right,
So it's not like you're gonna have like 100 people attend a workshop, right? It's gonna be a
25.
25 to 30, yeah.
Right,
Depending
I
on,
suspect they will almost all sell out this year because of the change you've made, Carolyn, with the half day or the day before.
right. All right,
Oh, which actually leads us to the next question. What is the cap on how many people can present at one workshop? Great segue.
great segue. So at a workshop, because they're 90 minutes, we typically don't have more than 3. I think the max I've seen is 4, because you also want to build an experiential time. If there are more than that, I'd recommend considering a half-day advanced practice, which is a 3-hour block.
Thank you.
Great
So
question.
our great questions here. I'm loving it. Thank you.
Yeah.
This gives us so much to think about and to discuss. So are international ATA members able to apply to present if they do not hold an ATR-BC registration?
Yes,
Yes, they may.
that's an easy answer. Yes.
Yes. Sí, por favor. Or sí, s'il vous plaît. There you go. Does someone need to be an ATR-P or ATR or ATR-BC to present?
Again, and no, the only parameters we have is master's level. If you are a master's student and you will not be graduated by the time you submit the proposal, you just have another art therapist, potentially a faculty member, co-present with you.
Which leads us actually to the next question, which was, can students submit proposals on their own, or do they need an ATR-BC to collaborate?
They need a master's level art therapist to collaborate.
Then we have, Thanks for all this information. It really helps to understand and to feel more keen into applying, and would love to hear also the question about internationals. So yes, internationals can apply.
Absolutely.
All right. Does one have to be board certified and not just an ATR to be accepted for a proposal that offers CEUs? This is, I'm noticing a trend here. It's like
Yeah,
everyone agreed that they
I'll
need to be ATR.
clarify real quick. The need for someone to have their board certification is to review proposals because they are being reviewed for continuing education. That's
I'm
why we have that.
I'm so glad we're clarifying this because I don't know how many people were like, well, I can't apply because I'm an ATR, right? So I can't. So I hope that this is really hopefully clear that yes, you can apply without being a board certified art therapist.
And we have had non-art therapists present at our conferences because there's a lot of collaboration that happens in our profession.
Absolutely. So another question we have here. So if we cannot be there for the first couple of days of the live conference, can we request to present later in the last couple of days for a paper?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you are accepted and you have a scheduling conflict, we will do our absolute best to accommodate.
Absolutely. And also, for example, for virtual presentations, we also consider time zones. I know we've had presenters, who are international, or we have collaborations again. And so we also try to consider that, if your co-presenter is, I don't know, in Singapore, well, we will try our best to accommodate, right? So that it's not excruciatingly painful for the other person to be presenting like at 3 a.m. Right? Not that we can accommodate everything and everyone, but again, we do try our best to accommodate those things.
And we have some amazing members who are very flexible
Yeah.
when we need to rearrange things.
Absolutely. So it is also important for ATR-BCs with different backgrounds to volunteer as reviewers to strive for inclusivity.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. We're in the constant look for volunteers. If you have a passion for this, for proposals for reviewers, or if you know someone, right, that you're like, oh my God, I think my professor would be great for this. Please make sure you also tell them like, hey, I'm thinking about this, or maybe it's a colleague that you think would be a great reviewer. Please make sure to invite them, right, to have them join, because absolutely, the more diverse the voices, the more we can amplify the inclusivity. Also, can we ask a question right now without posting it here? I don't know if this question was before. Rebecca, hi, do you want to say something? You're good? All right. If the ultimate goal is to publish a paper, which presentation type is your recommended starting point? Thank you.
I would recommend a paper presentation only because it will help begin to formulate the content into a logical presentation that will inform your paper that you want to present for publication, where a workshop is going to be more where you do a bit of direct instruction and then you have an experiential and then you have some process time. A panel is going to be multiple voices from different perspectives, but research has also led to incredibly rich panel conversations. But if your ultimate goal is to publish, putting it in a paper format will already set you down that road to organize. Great question.
All right. And I think we have like our last question from what I'm reading. So I will be presenting with two people who are not ATR-BCs, one from Canada and the other one who's a lawyer. Do they have to be members of ATA to present somehow?
No, we have non-ATA members present, usually less than 10%, and very often they decide to be members by the time they get there. And normally that is a member is presenting and the co-presenter is a non-member.
They do have to register for at least
everybody has to register for the days they're there without exception.
Let me see. Oh, more questions.
There are some more questions I've noticed you. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I was just like, I just got like a.
And there's really one interesting one about abstracts and 600 pages that
All right, so does the
600 word.
600-page abstract include all references and citations?
To be truthful, I don't put a word count on. But no, your references will not count against you. But if you're sending in like a 5-page single-spaced abstract, it's going to make our head spin. That's a whole lot more than 600 words. If you send in 1 paragraph, that's a whole lot less than 600 words. So strive for something 1.5 pages, 2-page max, and then your references. But please only include those references that you have cited in your abstract. That's a big dinger. And popcorn, the references should be fairly current unless there is a reason that there is no current research on a topic. And that's what you are bringing to the profession. If your references are 10, 12 years old, there will be comments about this is great. Really would love to see something more current as references.
Right. So with the question of applying of later in the conference because of scheduling conflicts, can you request for workshops also later in the week as well? Not for an all day, but just a 3-hour or a 1.5-hour workshop.
Right. If you are accepted and you are scheduled at a time that does not work for you, it's communication. Yeah, you can, when we build the schedule, we put things in because part of that is making sure that we don't have similar topics at the same time. So we don't want to workshop on a topic that has a paper on that topic and a panel at that topic all in the same block, because that's really not fair to attendees. So we do try to be incredibly mindful of that. Sometimes we miss the mark, but we try very hard. If somebody is scheduled in a time that does not fit, we will do our absolute best to fix it.
All right, thank you. So is the inclusion of references required for paper panel presentation in the application?
Yes, your abstract, you write an abstract regardless of what you are proposing to present, and there should be references to support what you are trying to present at a conference that is giving continuing education.
Which is exactly what I failed at. I just said like, this is what I think I will be talking about, and this is my idea, and that's it, right? So please, yes, references.
Yep, and I went the opposite way, and I was like, this is my thesis that I'm going to present, and here's my 6 pages of references.
So find that middle ground. That's what we're
Balance.
suggesting.
Yes.
Is it possible to present at a panel in a workshop with similar content?
Similar content, but different enough. Panels are conversations, workshops are experientials. Yes.
All right. So I know we are at a minute from ending this. I see that the question in the chat is getting answered in the chat, and it's about I got on late, so you have mentioned the answered, and how long does a paper presentation have to be, and are there good resources as examples? So we're kind of like already Cynthia answered that we will be probably sending a little written summary of things, and with some also, you know, references in there of examples, and, you know, and again, more resources for you to use. And I think that is it for today. Oh, let's see. I'd love to.
I have to circle back to Rick's question.
Thank you, Carolyn. I guess the presentation is very rich and explained pretty much many different parts of the conference. One of the things that I want to ask you is about the workshops and the pay for the workshop. Can you please extend a little bit more in that kind of line? How they're paid, who pay, where the money came from?
Sure. So when you register for the conference, you are registering for.
I will have to step out. I do
Yes.
apologize, but Carolyn will stay here with all of you. Thank you. I do have a workshop that I'm actually facilitating. So take care.
Good night, Nadia.
Thanks.
Thank you, Nadia.
All right. So when you register for the conference, you're registering to attend the plenaries, the keynote, papers, panels, posters, performances, and videos. If you want to register for a workshop, there is an additional fee. That helps cover the expense of the art materials that are being used in that session. If you register for an advanced practice course, there is an additional fee for that as well. That is in addition to the conference. Workshops and advanced practice are not part of the full conference registration. But you are welcome to register for conference, and we'll still have more than you will ever be able to absorb in one day. Any other questions that are left unanswered?
There's just one from Rebecca.
Okay.
If you tailor your, okay, Rebecca, I'm gonna just ask you to ask your own question.
Okay, thanks, Cynthia. So if you're, I understand that the NBCC, when you're, especially like with the workshops, but also with the papers, if it's too much geared towards art therapy, they balk at it. But so we want to make sure that we're appealing to both art therapists, but also the content is more generalized. But we don't want to lose out on appealing to art therapists by being too global in our objectives. Did that make sense?
Yes.
Carolyn, thank you.
Yes, very much. Thank you for that. And like I said, that is not a area that I have expertise in, so I appreciate the assist on that. All right. Thank you all so much for being here. Please know that we are here to support you. If you are working to put together a presentation and you run into a question, please reach out to us. We are here to support you, and we strive to make every conference as good as it can be. I don't want to say better than the previous, because we've had some pretty amazing conferences, but we try to enhance our opportunities year to year. And we can only do that if everybody submits proposals, if we continue to get new voices really excited and take the intimidation out of presenting, and continue to hear from our seasoned professionals, because we have so much to learn from each other and everybody in that in between. So my challenge for all of you, since you have been here tonight, is to please encourage your colleagues to submit. Please consider submitting yourself. You came for a reason. We need your help. If you're an ATR-BC, you can learn a lot by doing program reviews. You won't get to review your own. We have safety nets, but consider emailing us to say, I'd like to be a program reviewer. The more people who help, the less work on all of